Welcome to the leading podcast for long-term weight management. Subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss an episode. You can connect with Jenny on all social media channels. You can also sign up to the newsletter to receive frequent content and tips for weight loss success.
Hey guys, welcome to the first ever episode of Power Over Food. Thank you for joining us. I've been inspired to record these podcasts as I really feel through my experience with my weight management and my clients' weight management that I have lots that I can share with other people that may help them develop their relationship with food and lose weight and live a healthier lifestyle. So I thought, being episode 1, I should start off by telling you a little bit about my weight management journey. And I promise these podcasts will be full of golden gems to help you with your weight loss. But first of all, I wanted to just share how I discovered my relationship with food. So I'm going to start off when I was around 5 years old. What I'm about to share, I actually didn't discover any of these things until I started to lose weight later in my 20s. But I'm going to take you from the beginning. So up until about the age of 5, I was of a fairly normal, healthy weight. And as far as I'm aware, I had a really healthy relationship with food. But as I grew up, I got bigger and bigger. And by the time I was about 12, I was around a size 16. And from then on, my weight just increased until I got to a size 24. And occasionally I would go on a diet and I would lose a little bit of weight, but then I would gain it back and usually gain some more, like many of you can probably relate to. I think I've pinpointed some of the things that I discovered with my relationship with food back to my childhood. So my secret eating, where that started. When I was around 5 or 6, I was taken into hospital with bronchitis, and I have a really strong memory of being carried into the ambulance, and I was very, very poorly. And because I was poorly, I'd lost weight, I wasn't eating very much, I had a sore throat. So when I began to recover, my parents really praised me for eating, because obviously as parents, they wanted me to eat. And they would say, well done. They would encourage me to clear my plate. Now, many of you may have memories of being told to clear your plate, not being able to leave the table until everything's been eaten. And that's a message that we have passed down for generations since food was scarce. But for me as a child, I took that on board and I learned that I was good if I cleared my plate. And that message has stayed with me. Even now, when I go to a restaurant and the portions are incredibly big, I will still feel that I need to finish it, and I will have to really argue with myself and think I don't need any more food. I'm quite satisfied. So that's just one thing for me. And I think some children take that on board quite literally, and they think, right, I'm good, I need to clear my plate. And we will say it to other children and they'll just think, well, I'm full, I don't need it. And they will sit there for hours and not eat because they're listening to their body, and then you generally don't need the food, or they would rather go and play than eat. Now, I also remember being rewarded with food. Again, something we do every single day with children. We tell children, if you do this, you can have an ice cream. If a child maybe doesn't want to go swimming on a Saturday morning, but you've paid for the lesson and you don't want them to miss it, you might say, I tell you what, if you go swimming, we'll get a McDonald's afterwards. I remember that if I did something good, I would be rewarded with food. If I had a good school report, we might all go out for a meal. So I have to clear my plate, and I'm rewarded with food. I think I also learned that food made me feel better. If I had a bad day, I could look forward to eating chocolate later that evening when I got home from school. So if I'd been bullied at school, I'd think, oh well, I'll go home and eat. So by the time I was around 11 or 12, it was becoming really obvious that my weight wasn't levelling off. And until then, I think my parents had said, oh, it's puppy fat, it'll go, but it wasn't going. And I was now at secondary school. I was being bullied, and I've got a really, really strong memory of sitting on my bathroom floor crying, and I was begging my mum not to send me to school because I was being bullied. And my mum promised that she would help me lose weight, and she promised that we would work it out together. And now I'm a parent, I realise how much I must have hurt my mum and what it must feel like as a parent to see your child so upset because of their weight. My mum tried to help. She cut down the food I was eating, she gave me smaller portions, she made healthy swaps, just everything that you would do as a parent. But unfortunately for my mum, she didn't know that that is where my secret eating began, because I would look at my brother's plate and I would feel deprived, and I would say, well, I want as much as he's having. And my mum would say, come on, remember, we're trying to cut down on what you're eating. We're trying to change what you're having so that you lose weight, so you don't feel uncomfortable. But in my little head, it was not fair that my brother was having more than me. And therefore, what I would do was I would secret eat. I would have something out of the cupboard when nobody was looking. I would get something from the shop that nobody knew about. So we lived next door to a paper shop. And something I used to do, my mum used to say, you can have one thing, take some money out of my pocket. And I would take a handful of change and I would go to the shop and I would buy other things. And I would hide them in my bedroom. And then I would go and watch Home and Away and Neighbours, and I would sit with my extra bar of chocolate or my extra sweets thinking, I'm still having this, nobody knows. Now, as an adult, we know, and I've worked with many people that are secret eaters, and sometimes I'm still a secret eater now occasionally, but we know that even if we're eating in secret, those calories still count. But I think as a child, I thought, well, nobody knows, nobody's going to tell me off, I can have it. So that's where my secret eating developed. So my weight continued to increase, and unfortunately I also developed a condition called lipedema during puberty. However, I didn't know I had it, and I actually didn't find out I had it until I lost all of my weight and some of my weight wouldn't shift, and I was then diagnosed with the condition. But if you haven't heard of lipedema or lipedema, it's a condition that they think affects around 11% of women, and I would say it's probably a lot more. And it happens when our fat cells distribute their cells unevenly. So for me, it was my bum and my legs became bigger. And even now, my bum and my legs are a bigger size compared to the rest of my body and my arms, because unfortunately, my lipedema has progressed and I do have it in my arms and even in my hands. At school, my legs became an unusual shape to most normal legs, and the children at school, some of them called me tree trunk legs, which again was really hurtful. And as far as I was aware, it was just again because I was fat. I didn't know I had this condition. So this condition just added to the fact that I was overweight, and when I was losing weight I wasn't seeing my legs go down, so that wasn't helpful either. I left school, I went to drama school, I trained as an actress, and I worked in touring theatre and theatre in education. I guess playing different roles was an escapism for me. I could play a character and be on that stage, and it didn't matter what size I was because that was the character I was playing. But off stage, although to the outside world I probably came across as very confident, inside I was really not happy with the size that I was. And don't get me wrong, if you are happy with the size you are, I take my hat off to you. I know being overweight seems to have become more acceptable in today's society, and if you are happy and you feel that you are healthy at the weight you are, that is absolutely fantastic. But for me, I was really uncomfortable and I was really unhealthy. My BMI was 43 at its highest. So when I'd go out on a night out, I was also drinking quite a lot before I even left the house. And I think that was just to make myself feel comfortable. So I would get ready with a bottle of wine, and by the time I left the house, I was well on my way. I was very merry, but I could also look in the mirror and think, yes, I've wore this same black top the last 3 weeks, but I've put some different jewellery on and I feel good. And it was the alcohol that was making me feel good, which again was not really a great place to be. But when I was in a pub, I felt like I was the biggest person in the room. So therefore the alcohol would take that edge off me. I felt that all my friends were slim, they would get the attention from the boys, and I was just the overweight one. Now, the turning point came for me in November 2004. I was incredibly miserable at this point. I was in what I thought was going to be my dream job, but it turned out to be not for me. It was at my local theatre. I didn't really enjoy the role and some of the people I was working with, and unfortunately I hated myself. And to top it off, I was in a relationship that had run its course, and I think the only thing that we had left in common was eating unhealthy food together, and I think we both had a destructive relationship with food. And that's when I found the strength to tackle my weight. So in short, I followed a very low calorie meal replacement diet. I took food out of the equation and I only ate bars and drank milkshakes and porridge and mini meals, and I lost 6.5 stone in 6 months. So I went, at the time, my first weigh-in was 17 stone 2. I'd lost a little bit before I started because I'd been on some diet pills with the doctor. And I went from 17 stone 2 to 10.5 stone, roughly. Now, I'm not saying very low calorie diets are for everybody, but I was at the point where I needed to take food out of the equation and reassess where I was, and I needed to redevelop my relationship with food. And I also needed weight to come off really quickly. And by being on a meal replacement diet, it did come off very, very quickly. So they're known as VLCDs, very low calorie diets. And being on a very low calorie diet, it did come off really, really quickly at roughly 1 stone a month. So I'm not saying very low calorie diets are for everybody, and I always say to all of my clients, you need to choose what is right for you so that you're comfortable with what you're doing and how you're losing weight. But for me, I needed to take food out of the equation. I needed a break from food. I would say I am addicted to food. So being on meal replacements gave me that break. And it also gave me a chance to redevelop my relationship with food as I introduced food when I came off the programme. What was really important though is I also worked with a weight loss counsellor during my weight loss. And I started to look at my relationship with food at a deeper level. Hence, I looked back at my childhood and where my unhelpful eating started, and everything in between, and all of the times when I'd lost weight and gained weight, what was going on for me at that point in my life. Now, I'm 15 years on, I'm still managing my weight successfully. I did gain 4 stone during pregnancy, and then I lost it again. And actually being pregnant for me wasn't as enjoyable as it probably should have been, because I literally hated growing. Even though I knew my body needed to grow to carry my little baby, and I knew I needed to gain some weight, I really, really struggled with getting bigger, and I didn't enjoy it at all. Now, because I'd lost the weight and I felt so amazing, I wanted to help others do the same. So I trained as a weight loss counsellor, and I started working with people to help them understand their relationship with food. And I've been doing this now for 15 years. Has everybody I've worked with kept their weight off? No, I'm sure they haven't. And that is because we have to work at this forever. I am still working at managing my weight, and I still overeat. I overeat, and I still have to realign my relationship with food and pull it back. The difference is now, I would say, I'm at peace with food. I don't beat myself up if I make choices to eat high calorie food. I just adjust the next day or the next week if I'm on holiday. I try and drop a few extra pounds before I go on holiday, so when I'm on holiday I can enjoy higher calorie foods and have different things and not feel guilty about them. I encourage my clients not to feel guilty about eating, not to see food as good or bad. Food is just fuel, and if we can take the emotional pull and start to change that, and all of those reasons we might go to food when we've had a bad day, when we're stressed, when we're anxious, when we're happy, when we're sad, if we can learn about that and take those reasons for eating out of the equation, then we are going to be in a much better place to manage our weight. And don't get me wrong, I will have a stressful day and think, gosh, I could just eat such and such. But the difference now is 9 out of 10 times I will say, I know I want to eat that because I'm stressed, but I know I don't really need it. Sometimes I'll think, I'm going to eat it anyway. But the majority of the time I don't, and that is the difference. And I guess it's the 80-20 rule. If 80% of the time we are in control of our food choices and 20% of the time we're not, then we're going to be winning with weight management. So that's me, and that's my weight loss journey. So over the coming episodes, I will share lots of little ideas and activities that you can do to start to understand and challenge your relationship with food. So I hope you will join me in episode 2, and I hope I can motivate you and inspire you with your weight management, so that you can be successful and keep your weight off forever. Please subscribe to the podcast and don't forget to leave me a review, and please share. If you know somebody else that struggles with their weight, then please share it with them. I am not advocating to do a certain diet, or I'm not saying you have to do it this way. What I'm saying is, if you understand what is going on in your head and how your relationship with food has got to where it is today, then you are going to be in a much better place, whatever way you choose to lose weight, whether that's a very low calorie diet, whether it's healthy eating and exercise, whether it's learning more about your nutrition. What I always say to my clients is, we all know what to eat. We all know what's healthy and what's not so healthy. But the fact is, we don't do it, and we don't do it because we are still battling all of those other reasons to eat that are not physical hunger. So thanks for listening, and have a great day.